What is up, everybody? This is your boy James Davis III, and I am a co-host of the Sports Ball Podcast. I'm also a producer here at ESPN Las Vegas. So I am everything sports centric. I am so happy for the first month of this MLB season to be almost inside of the books. I'm so happy just to be here, man. Like, for a baseball fan, this year has been spectacular. First of all, it started off with the World Baseball Classic. That was absolutely awesome. We have seen so many different teams either have lived up to the expectations or have played down, and possibly certain teams are already inside of crisis mode. So, thank you for just being a part of this. Let's just really just get into it, man. I know for me, it has just been such a wonderful, I guess, transition for certain teams. And just to see how they fared last season, going into the ending part of the season, and how that they are starting their 2026 season has just been absolutely incredible. So one of those teams that I definitely want to go and highlight is a hometown team for us. The Athletics, the Las Vegas A's, the Athletics, however way that you want to go and call them right now, they have been one of the more pleasant surprises in MLB. So, if you have been following, one of the teams that I talk about would be one of the breakout teams was this Athletics team. They are so loaded with young talent. They just are inside of the right division at the right time with the Astros getting older. You really don't know what this Mariners team is really going to be. Can they get back to the promised land? Can they get back to the ALCS? It's really looking difficult for them right now. Some of their bats aren't really hitting the way that they have been, and it has just really, really been a really great year just for the A's. So, if you look at this athletic roster, right? So, even just little things that they did, they added on to the bullpen, right? You have somebody like Scott Barlow. I've really been higher on Scott Barlow more than a lot of other people because remember, he used to go and play with the Royals. Back in rotation, he has a really, really good fastball. I believe that he also has a cutter as well too. Is either that or a sinker, but his pitches are really, really elite. So you really even haven't gotten the same type of Luis Severino that you saw inside of the World Baseball Classic. So you're still operating with one of their aces that hasn't even scratched what they are possibly going to do, for the remaining part of the season. You see somebody like Jeffrey Springs. He has definitely started off. He has really started off the season really well, even though his last outing really wasn't as good as some of his previous outings. He has such a plethora of different pitches. He is going to be absolutely excellent for this athletics team. So, you can always talk about Shea Langoliers. He's a beast. He has definitely duplicated everything that he was doing at the end of that 2025 season, and he's definitely brought it into the 2026 season as well too. So, you still got Lawrence Butler, you still have Denzel Clark, Tyler Stotterson as well too, Nick Kurtz, the other Max Muncy is on there as well too, Jacob Wilson. So I feel like they have such a young team. They're still trying to go and figure themselves out. Can you just imagine what this team would have been if they still had Mason Miller on their team? So all of that is just to say that this young team is really developing the right way. Since we partner with their minor league team, we see a lot of the aviators as well too. So they really do have a really, really good farm system, and they have such good young talent right now that inside of that ALS, which is such a division and it's just a war of attrition. Inside of that, you have the Astros getting older. You see Texas, but you really don't know what you're going to get out of the Texas Rangers as well too. You have the Angels. The Angels really did start off pretty decent. They still have Soriano. Soriano has just been lights out. Mike Trout has had another renaissance as well too. So it's one of these things where they still have Kurt Suzuki as a first year manager as well too. So you have a lot of storylines inside of that AL West that for me is kind of just like, well, which team durability wise do you think that they can have most of their impact players be there for the majority of the 162 game schedule? And I think that this athletics team is young enough, they're hungry enough, where like in the dog days of June, in the dog days of July, I feel like they will be one of these teams that will be able just to rely on their youth. And from that youth, that renaissance will go and hopefully propel them into the playoffs. And, they kind of remind me of the Cincinnati Reds of last year, where like they had like a lot of good pieces and stuff like that. They finally got the right type of coaching inside of there with Terry Francona. And you saw, you know, all of all of those moments where like they were just so close, and those were the games that they were possibly losing in 2025, those one run games and stuff like that. They are learning how to win, right? Just because they've mastered how to lose these last few seasons, but now they know how to win. And I think this athletics team reminds me of the Tampa Bay Rays, where like they have been a de facto away team for the entire season just because they don't have a home ballpark. They're still playing out of another ballpark. And how many other major league teams can go through that and still be successful when you are basically just a 162 game away team, right? So I feel like the Athletics and also the Tampa Bay Rays are some of these special teams, and I will also put the Jacksonville Jaguars inside of this special type of groups of teams where like they play outside of their home base, outside of their home city so much that they have almost become masters of, being road home teams, right? So they know how to win on the road. They are young enough where like some of that stuff and some of the, I guess, routines and some of the stuff that maybe some of the older players that are much more established, um, they they don't necessarily have those same type of resources that maybe the Dodgers have, or maybe like the Yankees have, where like their home stadium, they know how to go and just do it. Like there's a lot of fluctuation. So all of that is just to say that this athletics team has been battle tested inside of certain ways that I don't think other major league teams have been battle tested. So for me, this athletics team has great odds. They have the potential to go and to possibly win this division, but you never really know just because you really can't doubt Houston. You can't doubt Seattle. There's a reason why Texas, made it to the World Series, a few years ago, because they still have their core of players down there. So I feel like this division has definitely been one of those divisions where like a team like the Athletics can really come out and they can find a way, and there's a path for them to make it to the playoffs. Now, another division, and I never in a million years would have thought that the NL Central would be the best division in baseball. But you look at it right now, you have the Cincinnati Reds 16-8, you have St. Louis Cardinals 14-9, Pittsburgh 13-9, Chicago 13-9, Milwaukee 12-9. So you have so many good teams inside of that. And really, the only team here inside of this NL Central with a negative run differential is the St. Louis Cardinals, and they're still 5 games over 500. So that just lets you know that, like, hey, this will really be a division that it will really be interesting to see how their interleague play um, really shakes out at the end of the season, right? So it's going to be a lot more divisional games as well too. And I think when I'm really looking at it, right, you look at some of these records, the home and away splits, and this is still very very early inside of the season. But one of the things that really stands out to me right here is the Cincinnati Reds. Cincinnati Reds are 10-2 away, which is absolutely crazy for a younger team like this to play so well on those games that are in certain type of places and stuff like that where they are playing so well away. This will be very dangerous if they can go up there and keep this type of momentum throughout the season. And let's just say that they don't win a division, right? Let's say that, hey, Chicago, Milwaukee comes back. Let's just say that St. Louis somehow wins that division, right? But let's say that Cincinnati makes it as a wild card. That is dangerous. I feel like a team like this, and this is only just the first month of the season, stuff like that. You see a team like this that plays so well away, that is dangerous if they don't get one of these divisional, seeds. But if they are a wild card team and they are able just to go and make it, this will be one of these ones where, like, hey man, they're dangerous, man. This team is really, really exciting just because they still got Terry Francona right there. Terry Francona has been a baseball lifer. He kind of reminds me of Bruce Bochy. He kind of reminds me of, Joe Torre, AJ Hinks. Who's another one, man? Some of these high functioning coaches where, like, wherever that they go, they seem to get the best out of the players. So when I'm looking at this St. Louis Red, I mean, when I'm looking at this Cincinnati Reds team, it's just like, man, they have so many moving parts. They have so many good players, So that division right there has been one of the most excellent divisions. Now, let's have the contrast with that. What division do I see that I had anticipated this division to be a lot better, and like they're already inside a crisis mode? When you look at this NL East is fucking atrocious. When you look at just how bad the New York Mets are, and here's the thing, there were so many warning signs. There were so many warning signs with that Mets team, right? So I guess one of the warning signs before the season was just how many free agents that they missed out on. How many free agents that they tried to go and sign that wouldn't even give them the time of the day. So they did trade for Freddie Peralta, and I think that that was an excellent trade. You trade for the Brewers ace, right? He's not the problem. You still have Nolan McLean on there. He's a beast, right? You lose Brandon Nimmo, right? You lose Pete Alonso, right? You add Robert Luis, right? Cool. This division between the Phillies, the fact that the Nationals are 4 games better than the Mets and are 3 games better than the Phillies. Now, this is still just the first week, the first month of the season. Like, they are already inside a crisis mode. All of the red flags, all of the alerts should be going off. Like, it's one thing losing 11 games. It's another thing losing how many games, but just the expectations of just knowing that you have a generational talent like Juan Soto, but you see the contrast between the Mets and the Dodgers, right? Just because you have somebody like Mookie out. Mookie has been out for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and that level of play hasn't deteriorated the same way that it has deteriorated with the Mets. And that is just insane to me that you have so many moving parts with that. But there were so many signs before the season started that, like, hey, this Mets team isn't as good as what we project them to be. And this is still the same team that did not make it into the playoffs last year. This is the same team that still ended the 2025 season not making the playoffs. And they are truly living up to form in the beginning of this 2026 season. So that division is absolutely atrocious. Um, some of these teams that are also taking a really positive step. I think you also have to look at the Baltimore Orioles too. So you look at this division. I think we all knew that this Yankees team was the best team inside of this AL East, right? But we didn't know what the Red Sox was going to be. We didn't know what the Blue Jays was going to be. Now, we had all thought that, like, hey, this Blue Jays team is coming off of a World Series appearance. They will probably make it back. It just hasn't started off the right way for them. And if you look at the run differential for them, they put up 88 runs, but they've allowed 111, right? So their differential is minus 23. Now they are on a 2 game winning streak, so that can just snowball. Now they don't have Yes Savage. Dylan Cease is still doing his thing. Guzman is doing his thing. So I feel like they're still trying to go and find their identity for the season. They're still trying to go up there and do what they need to do. So Vlad Guerrero isn't a problem. Vlad is still batted the ball the right way. He is still doing everything that Vlad does. So it's just the bullpen, just like every other team. But I felt like this AL East, I would have predicted the AL East to be what the NL Central is right now, as far as just like all five of their teams would have been over 500, right? I didn't see that inside of the NLS. I don't see that inside of many other divisions. Definitely not the NL East. Never would have thought that the Miami Marlins would be 4 games better than the New York Mets, a month into the season, but this is where we are. So shout out to the NL Central. This NL Central has really been carrying baseball right now as far as just like a division where like, you know, that competitive balance is just so equal where, you really don't know, which team is really going to go in, take that next step, which one has that sixth gear. But last year it was Milwaukee. Milwaukee was that team that had that sixth gear. I think after the All Star break, they had like a crazy ass win percentage. So which team is going to be that? Will this be the year that Craig Counsell finally gets his team to the promised land? Right? Is this the year that Aaron Boone finally wins the championship with the Yankees? Right? Will the Dodgers three-peat? You know, there's just so many storylines this year that, like, for a baseball fan, this has just been absolutely amazing, right? So let's get in some of these odds as well too. So you know, looking at some of these futures odds. So World Series, still the same thing. Let's go and pull up some of these divisional odds, and what I will do is put up the ones that I feel like are the best just to go and just talk about, right? Cool. It's very, very interesting too, with just some of these odds that I'm really looking at right now. And I'm about to go and put this up on the screen so, you know, everybody can go and just see them. But this NL Central, right? Right now, the Chicago Cubs are still the odds on favorite to win this division, right? Even though right now the Chicago Cubs, I believe they are fourth inside of that division, even though they have a 13-9 record or something like that. So when you really look at this division, right, they still think that Chicago is still going to win this division. Um, Here's another surprising one for me, right? You have the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pittsburgh Pirates are they are just mere mere points, or just their odds aren't really as far away from Milwaukee, which is very, very surprising. Pittsburgh has been in the bottom dweller of the MLB for at least the past 5 or 6 years, right? But you still have your core. They brung up Connor Griffin. You still have Brian Reynolds out there. Here's the thing also, right? They trade away Key Brian Hayes, right? And I was just like, man, like you trade away, one of your best players, one of the players, that you really have divulged so much resources into, right? But one of the, I guess, concerns that you can have about Key Brian is just that offensively, you don't know what you're going to go and get. Defensively, he is a absolute stud. He is one of the best third baseman infielders inside of the game. Offensively, you don't know what you're going to go and get sometimes. So I found that really, really interesting. And even these Cardinals right there, right? That's still crazy to me. Here's another one too. Um, I'm looking at the odds right now for the AL Central, right? And let me go and look at the AL Central and just to see where everything is. Okay. So right now, the AL Central, they still have Detroit as the odds-on favorite just to win that division. So right now, Detroit is third place inside of the AL Central. They are currently 1.5 games back of the Cleveland Guardians. The Cleveland Guardians are here to stay, right? They have Grant Williams. They have still Jose Ramirez, right? What I really, really like about the Cleveland Guardians, and I think this is what a lot of these small markets was trying to go and do before like they actually invested inside of some money. So you can't go and do what the Cleveland Guardians are doing right now, right? If you look at their payroll, right, they are inside of the bottom three of payroll right now inside of the MLB, right? But they are still division leaders, right? So as an owner, that's perfect, right? How many other franchises try to go and do that? Try to not spend a lot of money and still try to go and get the best product just because they believe inside of their farm system, they want it to be cheap, whatever, whatever. This Cleveland Guardians team is probably one of the last teams that we will ever see that will spend so much less than everybody else and still be competitive. That model doesn't work anymore in baseball. You just can't do it, right? It's the same thing for basketball. You can't go up there and just like think that like, hey, I'm just going to go and just develop somebody without going up there and just looking at the current ecosystem, right? Because you have a team like the Thunder, right? So you'll just be up there like, oh man, I'll just draft, I'll just do all this stuff, and then like you'll still get beat just because they still have a better drafting philosophy, and they are still willing to go and pay top tier free agents still to come and join their franchise. You can't do that inside of certain places, right? So we are we have a treat right now seeing the Guardians do what they do just because I feel like this will probably be one of the last times that we ever see a team do something like this.